that brings an absolute joy, unspeakable, just natural uprising in us. There were several times when I experienced the opposite of this growing up. And one time, I didn't have many friends in high school, but the couple I did, I thought they were very good friends. And I remember one day they were going up to a nearby city about an hour and a half away or so. Some of them were in the band, and they were going up to perform for the band, and then they were going to a local theme park. So I went up and met them and went to the theme park with them. And I remember that after a little while of going and doing things in this theme park together, a couple of them looked at each other, laughed, and just took off running and away from me. So I spent a little time trying to chase after them, lost them, and then walked that entire theme park, which was huge, a couple of times trying to find them. And just left there, never did find them, just left there feeling extremely dejected, came speeding back home, got 2 tickets that night on the interstate, came home, got drunk, just tried to numb that, because not belonging is the antithesis of joy, but belonging, to truly be known, to truly be accepted, to truly be loved for who you are, that brings joy, and a profound joy at that. The next, number 4, this is the 4th thing I want to give you, is joy arises and is experienced by being seen as your most beautiful self, beyond what we can see with our eyes, beyond what we can understand, but what calls to us from those regions beyond. Why do we all care what we look like? Why do we all care what people think? Why do we care so much? Why do some people spend so much time in the gym or on clothing or cosmetics or whatever it is that they do that they think is going to get them one step closer to becoming that incredibly, innately beautiful self that they have a concept of somewhere in their other than conscious mind. We all know that there's something there that's more beautiful than what we experience. And to have somebody come along and to see that in us, and this works everywhere. Let me tell you, to see someone as their very best, to believe in them before they believe in themselves. If they're on your team at work, if they report to you, if they're in your family, if they're a neighbor, if they're a friend, to have anybody come along, especially at a downtime, and say, hey, you know what? That might not have worked out so good. You might not be feeling so hot today, but I see you. I don't see you with my eye. I see you through my eye, through to the heart, through to that other than conscious mind area that just knows you are far more than what you're seeing and what I'm even seeing. I just know that your most incredibly, overwhelmingly beautiful self is there, and that it's going to be revealed one day, and that in the meantime we can keep walking towards it. But to see somebody like that and to truly believe in them, that produces joy as well. Now, another thing I want to tell you about joy, as I was thinking about this, it came to me, is that joy longs to be shared. There's a big difference between watching sunset over the Grand Canyon alone and watching it with somebody else. Even my wife and I often will be sitting on the beach just looking at the clouds and, oh, do you see that? Do you see that? Oh, did you see the dolphin jump? Did you see the tern fly by? Do you see what that cloud looks like? And just, it's one thing to just see it and know that it's there. That's a certain type of joy, but then there's a very different type of joy that comes from a shared joy. And, another book, I'm kind of on a C.S. Lewis kick today, it appears. That wasn't deliberate. It just kind of happened. But there's a book that my wife and I have been reading, called A Severe Mercy. And it's by, the author is Sheldon Van Auken. But it has letters that he, wrote back and forth with C.S. Lewis. And it tells a very beautiful, touching tale of romance and marriage and just extreme closeness, the kind that most of us, just long for. But they had it. They really worked towards it. But early on in the marriage, as a very young woman, the wife, Davy, contracted cancer. And she didn't get better in spite of all of their hopes and all of their prayers. She got worse. And, at the point where she was near comatose in the bed, just before she passed, her husband was there. Sheldon Van Auken was there with her. And just before she died, she came to fully aware and gazing. There wasn't anything in the room, but it's like she was gazing through that curtain of time, into the next dimension that has always been calling, and saw the most beautiful thing she could ever see. And she took his hand and she said, look, dear heart. And she was gone, moved over into that other side, to the other dimension. But even in that parting moment of seeing all that lay before her, whatever that may be, her desire was to share it with him and to have him see it too. So joy is most profoundly realized when shared. Then there's also, this is number 6, there's a relief of joy. There's a verse in Psalm 126, 1 through 2 that says, when the Lord brought back the captive ones of Zion, we were like those who dream. Then our mouth was filled with laughter and our tongue with joyful shouting. Shouting again. There's another translation that I like that says, when the Lord returned the fortunes of Zion. They were in a state where they couldn't care for themselves. They were captives in a foreign land. There's too much backstory to explain right now, but suffice it to say, there's been many people displaced from their home, displaced from the good that they would have, who have lost businesses, money, fortunes, and to have those restored, to have restoration come. It says we were like those who dream. Our mouth was filled with laughter and our tongue with joyful shouting. Now, often it's what we become in those times of waiting and working towards the goal and trusting and becoming developed on the inside that make us able to do what we need to do on the outside when the fortunes are restored. But boy, to have that come back, to have something lost that ached to come back, our mouths were filled with laughter and our tongue with joyful shouting. Now also, fortunes can be restored. Hearts can be healed. Joy can heal, I believe, every hurt and restore all loss. I think that there is in all of our hearts, there's so many losses, and it hurts so much to hear about them, things that people have lost and the anguish that they're going through. But I always believe there's a joy that can come that's greater than those losses, that's going to come if we'll hang in there a little bit longer and look for it. There's going to come a restoration, and it can heal hearts. It can also heal our bodies. There's a huge joy that comes when there's physical healing. I have a dear friend, and she has had the worst year ever, diagnosed with cancer and heart issues and kidney issues and colon issues and just infections and every kind of thing. And we've scratched our heads and just been in bewilderment while, just praying that she be raised up, and just got the post, a couple of days ago that, a procedure had been successful and she has now been declared cancer free. And the joy that came from that, my wife and I, we were shouting and just in tremendous gratitude and just overwhelmed by it of how after all the bad news, how good it was to hear of this healing. And also not only our bodies, but our relationships can be healed. When a relationship is healed, when somebody finally sees the light, and when somebody's heart is finally softened in forgiveness, and when the hearts that have been hurt by each other can come back to each other and restore value to each other, see them with the value that wasn't seen to start with, and let down the walls and begin to trust again. Maybe it's little by little, but relationships can be healed too, and then that brings the joy as well. And the last thing I have for you, number 7, it's on giving joy. Joy is often best experienced when we are giving it to others, seeing others as better than they see themselves. We already spoke about that, but to see that image of them, to hold to that true image and vision of who they're meant to be, regardless of where they are right at the moment. It's really good to have a vision beyond the moment for both ourselves and other people, and creating joyful experiences for them. I think of the kids on Christmas morning. I can remember as a child getting up very, very early on Christmas morning to plug in the tree. We had those old big glass bulbs and the specific type of light that would cast in the living room. And I would just lay there for hours, just kind of between wake and sleep and in dreamland and wondering what was in the packages. But just that sense, and I didn't think through it at the time, but just knowing that, hey, somebody was thinking about me. Somebody cared about me. Somebody loves me. Somebody's done something for me. I wonder what it is. And just waiting anxiously, like the song says, you gotta get up, you gotta get up, you gotta get up. It's Christmas morning, and waiting for my parents to get up so we could finally see what was in the gifts. And then also introducing people to new beauty, to new opportunities, to new ways that they can be fulfilled. I'll never forget, a friend of mine, Chap Percival, that, he was the physics high school teacher that offered a bird watching elective in 8th grade. And I took that elective, and it helped me so much to give me a focal point and something that I loved in high school, because I wasn't very social at the time and not doing that well, and introduced me to travel and to other countries and to so much. It also, years later would become the basis for starting a photography business. It's the way that I met my wife, by posting a photo of a bird that I took in a Facebook group, and she got in touch and asked permission to paint it. And a couple of years later, we were married. But you never know when you introduce somebody to something beautiful or some new opportunity, what fulfillment, what joy might come out of it. So thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to be back in just a minute after a short break to look at 2 applications of applying joy to our lives.
Jeff will be back shortly to wrap up today's message. This is Gabriela, still on the scene today with Talk Network Radio. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to Empowered Living with Jeff Byrd. If you've missed any part of today's message, you can hear it again online, as well as the entire archive of Empowered Living at www.talknetworkradio.com or search keyword #Empowered Living. We would like to acknowledge our music partners, Sound Ideas for Corporate to the Max and Kevin MacLeod for Airport Lounge. Any scriptures read during this broadcast are from the New American Standard Version of the Holy Bible. If you would like to learn more about Jeffrey Byrd Coaching, visit www.jeffbyrdcoaching.com. That is JEFFBYRD coaching.com. Do a Facebook search for @CoachingRocks or drop Jeff a line at jeff@jeffbyrdcoaching.com. Again, JEFFBYRD coaching.com. Let Jeff's Coaching Rocks be the building blocks of your empowered success. Now, let's go back to Jeff for the rest of today's message.
And thank you so much for staying tuned in with us. This is Jeff Byrd with Jeffrey Byrd Coaching, and this is Empowered Living. We've been talking about joy today, and I've given you 7 steps in the experience of joy, but what I'd like to leave you with is 2 applications today. First application on joy is that joy is all around us in this world. And it's in the colors, it's in the beauty, it's in the music, it's in the people around us. But we have to look for it. But there's also the joy that we can perceive with the senses. But there's also, like we talked about, a joy that's beyond those senses that is calling us to wholeness, to our best selves, to a view of life and self and others that we and God that we have yet to get much of a grasp on. And this is my advice on this to myself and all of us, is to seek it and to ask for it and to never, ever rest until we find it. Like C.S. Lewis also said, he said that if we, in our quest for wholeness, for completeness, for reality, if everything that doesn't work, we resolutely abandon and keep seeking, it will lead us to God. It will lead us to wholeness. It will lead us to completeness. That's why we're told to ask and it will be given to us. Seek and we will find. Knock and the door will be open. When we seek it and ask it and abandon the things that don't work, that don't provide this deep-seated joy and wholeness and completeness, and if we'll leave those things alone and keep looking, we are going to find them. It is promised. And when we do, we're going to have what our next session is going to be about, contentment. And contentment helps a lot. So please come back and tune in for that next week. But for right now, that's number 1, is joy is all around us. To seek it and to keep seeking it and to never stop until we find it, or maybe until it finds us. And number 2 is create joy for others. Introduce them to wonder. Create a sense of belonging for them. Let them know, hey, I see you beyond what you see, and you matter, and you belong. You have a place. You may not have discovered it yet, but I know it's there for you. See them with perfect eyes. See with perfect eyes what cannot be seen. Not seen with our eye, seen through our eye, from heart to heart, and see what they're becoming. See what they're meant for. See beyond, with spiritual eyes, with eyes from the heart. See beyond into what they can be and believe wholeheartedly in that and support them wholeheartedly in that. Then see their value, the value in their gifts, the value in their abilities, and to the best of your ability, create opportunities for them to express that and to keep moving forward one step at a time. And then show them restoration. We talked about restoration in a number of categories: financial, heart restoration, relational restoration. And in those ways, so many of those things, so many of us are in the midst of those right now, just keep showing people the restoration that is possible, that can come through God.